is also fairly new to the randomizer. He signed up sort of at the last minute, which made the numbers work out nicely for us. He's been playing mostly FF4, FE, and enjoys the Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and Zelda series, among other things. Joining me this evening is my excellent co-commentator, Fury SK. How's it going tonight?
It's going pretty good. Looks like they're already underway here with this seed. Kind of some interesting stats to start with to talk about.
Yeah, and they have outside but not return, so they're going to have to use the key. And I think they just started with the Dragon Scale and the Herb, so no particular help to get them started. They're going to be relying on the 7 Strength and the 7 Agility. Having Agility in the single digits means poking your nose out into other territories would be pretty difficult. You won't be able to run from enemies very easily. And at only 7 strength, about the best you're going to be able to do is maybe you can fight a ghost right now. But with the low defense power, even with the Dragon Scale giving them +2, a ghost actually might even be too difficult. And only a couple of steps away we're seeing the Drakima, so the zone is kind of skewed off to one side here.
Yep, and I believe it's like an 8x8 zone that they're looking for to determine kind of what enemy set's going to be where, and maybe kind of go up to see if that zone has another weak enemy or stay where they're at.
So on Simbu's screen, we saw 3 different towns are available nearby, which would be great if they had started with some golds, but unfortunately not. And we do have the Ghost and the Slime. ArchfieldMonk actually choosing to pass on the Ghost, and the Slime has hurt more. But here we have the Red Slime. Maybe this is the ticket off level 1. So down it goes, and ArchfieldMonk takes a 2-point lead, quickly noping out of the town of Garenham. Of course, they don't have keys yet. They had to spend their 1 key to get out of the throne room, and Hawksness isn't of too much use yet either. Now, he is going to try to traverse this swamp to get to the 3rd town, and it is Cantlin. So all sorts of shops are available, but no money to spend.
Yep, it's always nice to kind of have those towns next to start. It gives you kind of the opportunity to set up a gold grind if it is at all possible in the seed, and get some pretty easy items as a
Yeah, we're seeing our first look at the weapon shop here, and there is a copper sword for 180 gold, and I think there was a full plate and a large shield for later, as you said, if they do get a gold grind started. That's about the best equipment we've seen, but yeah, with Cantlin reachable as well, there's plenty of options to choose from, most likely. And ArchfieldMonk has a shot at getting to level 1 or level 2 here, and he does it. So let's see what we get.
It's a decent chunk of strength, agility, and MP, but a little bit short on health, so gonna be a little bit frail for the moment.
Yeah, but in terms of an early level up, that's fantastic. It certainly puts some of these enemies in play now, such as the Scorpion, doing 3 or 4 damage to the Scorpion. As long as it doesn't have any special attacks, he might be able to outlast the Scorpion and jump straight to level 3. When wisely using the 1 herb that they picked up in the throne room as ArchfieldMonk, that's a heads-up play to make sure that you're able to get this this enemy for level 3 here. So we have 6 more power, and there's some hit points that you were noting. So we're off the red in our tracker there. We are into the white for statistics, which means a lot more comfortable enemies to fight now. So it's nice to be able to see them get off the ground here, even though the stats are a little bit slow to start. ArchfieldMonk doing a nice job of staying in the primary zone, looking for all the enemies in this zone can be up as high as the Scorpion, and the Magician and the Scorpion both seem to be here, which means that you can jump up through the first couple of levels pretty quickly without risking going into the secondary zones, which could have enemies as strong as the Wolf, which I think we may have seen one of those earlier, I'm not sure. We certainly saw the Drakima just a couple of steps away. And we actually might be ready to go after the Drakima pretty soon, but no power. But look at what we have.
Yep, we have a whole host of spells. We have heal, hurt, and most importantly, perhaps, hurt more.
We have hurt more, guys, which means as soon as they either take a death here or stay at the inn maybe in Garenham, we are off to the races. We're going to be starting to branch out into the world and using hurt more to slay much stronger enemies. ArchfieldMonk going to use his money that he did acquire on a few herbs since they don't yet have a healing spell to work with. So that's a nice heads up play. You're going to be hurt moring enemies at every opportunity and using the herbs to just help you get a little bit further along on the map. And as you mentioned, it's nice to have the nearby towns, and in particular, those two towns are kind of nice to see early because those are the two towns where you most need your keys. So as soon as you are able to find some keys, it's a quick journey over to open the back door in Garenham, and a quick trip to go get those coordinates out of Cantlin. So the map is kind of set up so far for some nice progression if they can get started here with the Hurtmore spell.
Yep, just a little bit of a struggle for Simbu so far. He's run into this magician multiple times, and it looked like we had something up from the tracker. It suggested the magician was 75% to heal and 50% to baby breath him, so hopefully finds a few more skeletons to push through that level 4 and get his hurt more.
Oh, and the Scorpion does it for him. The Scorpion, it turned out, had the hurt spell at low frequency, but I think it looked like he two-shot the Scorpion with some good rolls, and now he is off to the races with Hurtmore as well, about a minute or a minute and a half behind ArchfieldMonk. So that is a time that can be made up pretty quickly, but it's a slight lead so far for ArchfieldMonk. And this is a great enemy to see when you're starting at these low levels. The Wolf Lord is very hurt moreable, and it's good for 52 experience, but it's not so strong that it's going to automatically ambush and one-shot you. So if you get a couple of these kind of enemies out of the way to just get through the next couple of levels, that is ideal. A lot of times you want to see things like the Spectre, the Droll Magi, sometimes even the Wraith Knight or the Knight, and a Magi Wyvern especially is one of my favorites, all one-shottable with Hurtmore. And yeah, so he is now up to level 6. I think picking up the Stop spell. Probably not going to use that very often unless there's some special case with some Sharlock enemies, having Sleep, for example. But yep, it's good to get that out of the way. Also picking up Radiant, so if he happens to find some caves, neither of these runners are particularly experienced, I don't think, at least not in terms of racing. So the Radiant spell could come in handy to navigate those caves.
Yep, and Simbu did find a cave. I didn't see exactly which directions he checked in the cave, but have an armored knight, so at least some potential once you get enough health to kind of survive a hit to double hurt more and maybe get some levels pushed.
Oh my goodness, the Golem has Dragon Lord 2 Breath, which is kind of nasty. If the Golem, for example, happens to be the Hawksness search tile, that can be a problem. So let's look out for that later on. But yeah, and the Demon Knight's going to be a bit difficult for Simbu to get away from. The agility score is still lagging a little bit in the low 30s, which means that they're not a favorite to run from some of these stronger enemies quite yet. But he is able to get away from that one and takes his chances with the Druin. If he can get the Druin, he'll be on level 5. And he's attempting to save the Hurtmore for later. But you don't want to wait too long here. The Druin could just put you down. You want to use those Hurtmores while you can. But he is on level 5 now. And ArchfieldMonk is moving out to a little bit of a wider lead now. And as you said, there's another cave in a town, I think, on ArchfieldMonk's screen. And that was a different cave than the one that was on Simbu's screen. So we have all sorts of locations pretty close to start in this one.
Yep, a lot of opportunities for divergence for the two runners for sure.
And now we have Breckenary, so the town that they probably really want to see soon is the town of Rimmeldar in order to get keys. And there is all the good gear in the shop in Breckenary. The Flame Sword, the Silver Shield, and a full plate waiting He does manage to pick up the copper sword, so he will be able to swat some enemies a bit more strongly. And he is going to use the fairy water shop that has been opened in the 2.1 version of Randomizer just recently. There used to be a door that blocked access to that shop, but in Randomizer now that has been opened, and ArchfieldMonk going to take advantage of that. Maybe next time he gets sent back to start, he'll have a fairy water to get out of those initial zones and avoid the pesky tiny encounters.
Yep, that's certainly a really interesting possibility to have opened up. It allows the runners, if they don't have repel early on, to potentially kind of put themselves in the same situation without having to burn the key that they would have initially.
ArchfieldMonk finds that cave. It ends up being the Stones of Sunlight cave with the one free chest, and it contains the cursed belt in this one. Cursed belt doesn't really do much for you. It will curse you if you equip it, but it is worth 180 gold. And here's another town. Is it Rimildar? No, it's the town of Cole, but there is a search spot here for free. But the other thing is he could sell that cursed belt for 180 gold if he wanted to attempt to maybe buy some chainmail or something of that sort. The search spot has the fairy flute, so probably not exactly what he was looking for, but if he does run into that golem with the Dragon Lord 2 breath, that is a free chance to run away. If you blow that fairy flute against the golem, he'll automatically go to sleep.
Yep, and if by some poor luck it happens to be one of the tiles we need later on in the game, that at least opens up the possibility for you to take out the golem a little bit earlier on in the levels.
And yet another town for ArchfieldMonk. They've seen 9 or 10 locations on the overworld already. And finally it looks, oh, actually this is looking to be Swamp South, so he's going to do the smart move, cast the outside spell, which takes you out the other end of the tunnel, out the north entrance to that cave. And we have a totally different part of the map here. He's going to continue on. So he's still trying to decide what to do. Oh, I didn't realize he picked up the heal spell on one of the previous levels, so the herbs are just kind of a backup plan. I thought maybe he was deciding whether or not to burn an herb there to get out of the swamp. Unfortunately, the Armored Knight here is going to send him immediately back to the castle. So the other thing about the Cursed Belt is we see Simbu now finding the belt in the cave here. The Cursed Belt is an item that will appear in the treasure chest, and it could be replaced by the Fairy Flute or the Erdrick's token. But if you see 2 Cursed Belts along the way, then you know that both of those items are actually on a search spot in the seed. We've seen 1 Cursed Belt in a chest, and now we're about to see the Fairy Flute on a search spot. I'm not sure that gives us the full amount of information yet about the token.
Looks like we do have a regular stone man on the Hawk's Nest grind spot. So, not necessarily that bad.
Yeah, they could actually beat it right now if they put it to sleep, which is highly susceptible to that. And 2 Hurt More spells, where it's about 50-50 on each one, and ArchfieldMonk is successful, so he'll get to search the second of the 3 search spots here, looking for the armor. Alright, it is Erdrick's armor for ArchfieldMonk, which boosts his defense rating all the way up to 54. He'll be defense breaking many of the mid-tier enemies now. It also allows him to heal walk his way, plus 1 HP for every step you take in and outside of towns. You can reduce the effects of Dragon Lord Breath and hurt more damage. Stop spell will no longer function against him, and that is a very nice boost for his bid to win this race tonight.
Yep, it seems we got a nice influx of spells on that level too. just missing the one that's the most important, as our tracker suggested.
Oh my gosh, and Sharlock is directly to the north of Star. I think we've seen 12 or 13 of the 16 overworld locations, and there's another cave to the north. This might be the tiniest map I've ever seen. Everything is just right there, and unfortunately what they haven't found yet is keys. So Rimildar is, I think, the only town still not found, and until now they hadn't found any of the major dungeons where you might be able to pick up a key in one of the chests. But ArchfieldMonk now has found the grave to the north of Star. It doesn't have any magic to work with, but he might be able to get to the 3 close by chests on the top floor here if he's able to run from a couple of these enemies with 40 agility. He's almost there. Let's see what he finds.
If he gets a key out of it, do you think he takes an intentional death?
And I would say so, and as a matter of fact, he has 2 keys, so now he actually could use one of them to proceed down to the lower levels of the dungeon if he's, had any resources. But right now it looks like he's walking back and forth looking for that wizard to dispatch him, because as you're hinting at, this could give you a shot to set up a gold grind if there's gold in the treasury at Tantegel Castle and you open the chest kind of in the right order, because 2 of the chests are going to be just opened one and done, and then the last 2 chests will give you the ability to set up a gold grind. And having not seen what's in there, it's just kind of a 50-50 shot here. But he takes the death from the Armored Knight, and he is going to get started here, and he would potentially use one of these keys to go over and buy more keys, but he might take just a quick peek into the treasury first. And here we go.
Yep, beyond just this treasury investigation, he does also have Cantlin nearby too, and that's become a possibility with coordinates and such.
Yep, and there's 3 more chests in the back of Garenham, as well as an additional location, which might be the other dungeon. We're running out of locations already. I think he's maybe found an herb that he can grind up here for 6 herbs for free, and the last chest is not gold. So we don't yet have any possibility of doing a gold grind yet in the seed, but we still haven't seen what is in the basement, and the mountain cave has not yet been found. So there's still a possibility of doing what we call the reverse gold grind, where you take all these chests from here and then go into the dungeon with hopes of setting up the gold grind from inside the dungeon. First, he's going to refresh his key stock here. Got 6 keys to work with after all this, and let's see what's in the basement. So this looks like Tablet or Mountain Cave, and it is Tablet Cave, so there's one last chance for there to be gold over here. There's 1 chest in this cave at the end of this little labyrinth here. No enemies in here, and he does have outside, so he'll be able to cast the outside spell to get out of here right away. But is this going to be gold? It is!
It's a pretty hype tablet cave for once. A lot of times we go in there and it's not what we want to see, and have to dig all that way down, even with outside. Kind of frustrating to dig just for 1 chest, but in this case, this is going to get him a little bit further in the seed, a little bit quicker than his opponent. So,
yeah,
definitely going to sit there and grind it.
We saw that there was a town not too far away that he saw the Flame Sword and the Silver Shield. And at the very least, we saw full plate. Can't recall if we saw magic armor, but he already has Erdrick's armor. So Flame Sword and Silver Shield will cost about 25,000 in gold altogether, so he will print about that much money. He could cast outside, go take a safety save perhaps with the king, if he wants to make sure that he doesn't die along the way. I think we saw some Armored Knights out and about. But no, he's just going to get the Silver Shield money. I thought for sure that he saw the Flame Sword, but he did not get enough for both items. Let's see what the plan is here. Going to Cantlin. I apologize, I haven't kept very good track of what Simbu's been up to. He's kind of doing all the same things, just a little bit behind. Here's that shop I was referring to on Simbu's screen. Has the flame sword and the silver shield. Looks like ArchfieldMonk remembered the broadsword and the silver shield was in that shop. So upgrades to the broadsword, and that's almost as good as the flame sword. It's an 8 attack power difference. Going for the coordinates now. And Simbu is now in the mountain cave, which is one of the dungeons I don't think we have seen yet. So yeah, this is his chance to find something equally useful. Maybe the Erdrick sword is in here, for example. And he's doing the smart move here with only 67 HP. He could have been one-shot by the Dragon Lord 2 Breath if he got blocked by the Golem. But instead, he uses the fairy flute that he found earlier in Cole, puts it to sleep, and finds the silver harp in the first chest for his troubles. And we'll have to catch up with what ArchfieldMonk's doing in a few moments here. So we'll follow Simbu's path through the mountain cave. There's 5 chests in here for free. Remember, he doesn't yet have keys. And with 2 keys being found in the grave, it's fairly unlikely that he's going to find one here. I think there might be 3 keys total in all of the treasure chests in the game, including the ones in Sharlock. So finds a bit of gold. I think that's a torch there. And an herb, but he did find the harp on the first floor, so this has been a pretty good, productive trip through this dungeon. There's one last chest here. And it's the Stones of Sunlight, guys. So just like that, 2 of the 3 quest items have been found by Simbu, depending on whether or not you want to technically call the harp a quest item. The harp will need to be traded in for the staff a bit later on, as soon as he finds that particular cave. But yeah, that's basically 2 of the 3 things that you'd be looking for. The token, I think, technically could still be in a chest. We've seen the armor on a search spot in Hawksness, and the flute was on a search spot in Cole. And we saw 1 cursed belt in a chest. But I think the token could still be on a search spot on the overworld. If there were coordinates we didn't quite get to see. If there are coordinates available. And if there's no coordinates, then that will mean that the token is in a chest. Let's see if Simbu is successful on the Stone Man that awaits him over here guarding Erdrick's armor.
Yep, despite being at a little bit of an early disadvantage, he seems to have kept up relatively well on levels without having Erdrick's armor on him, so if he can get this, he shouldn't be that far behind.
Oh my goodness. The Stone Man, as it turns out, has the Dragon Lord 2 Breath as well. So the big, rocky, stony creatures in this seed are out for blood. So we'll have to see now if he thinks he can go back in there and be successful, or if he leaves that for much later. That would make the difference between just not having the armor for quite a long time. Interesting to see what he wants to do next here. Again, he hasn't gotten into the grave to get those keys, so he has a limit on what he can do right now. He's got no way to get the coordinates from the old man in Cantlin without keys, and there are some other treasure chests that are locked behind doors as well. But I like that he's using this flute to get away from the golem here and there. It's a nice play, keep himself alive in the long run here. And Simbu already saw this cave. There is a cursed belt there if he wants to grab that once or twice in order to sell for a small amount of money if he wanted to pick up a chainmail or something in his travels. But mostly it may be considered a waste of time if you have hurt more already and you can do things like run around and smoke these wyverns in one shot. So he's getting actually fairly close to level 9, and surprised he didn't just go ahead and hurt more of the wolf there. Maybe he just felt like it's not worth quite as much experience. Metal Scorpion also, well, the Metal Scorpion's worth even less than the wolf, but he does goes ahead and takes that one down. Just maybe picking and choosing. They don't have a whole lot of MP to work with yet, so you can only use that hurt more spell so many times. The werewolf is one-shottable occasionally, and he does get him this time for 95 experience. So Simbu is making progress, but this map is crazy. I feel like they've seen almost everything right out of the gate.
Yeah, I can only think of 2 caves that I have not seen yet, and well, we haven't seen the back of Garenham from either runner.
That's right, and I don't recall if, what was in, oh yeah, the tablet cave was in the basement of Tenteagle, but yeah, there's still a cave in the back of Garenham. And there may be one more to be discovered out in the overworld, and I think the only town we haven't seen is Rimeldar. So, it's incredible. Have we seen both the Staff Cave and the Jerk Cave, do you recall?
I don't think we've seen Staff Cave.
Yeah, so that could be one of that. Is that one of the ones you were thinking of? So that could potentially just be right behind Garenham. Won't know until somebody gets keys and wants to go take a look back there. So here's Sharlock now for Simbu. That'll be a quick trip in and out of there from start. And if he gets this werewolf, he'll be on level 9 now.
To be honest, I don't know that I've seen either one of those caves. I think those are the last 2 that I had listed that I hadn't seen, but perhaps Simbu had seen it at some point when I was paying attention to Archfield.
Oh my gosh, 31 more power on level 9. So now, just even only with the copper sword, Simbu is going to be able to do some good damage. He's got 87 attack power. That is a fantastic level. This is turning into a very quick seed here, with all the locations close together on the map. Hurtmore fairly early on. All the equipment is accessible if you can. I think this is the cave here. I think this is the grave. So yeah, okay. So he realizes he hadn't seen this yet, and when he gets to these chests, he's going to have keys. So nice work by Simbu, doing some catching up exploration-wise to ArchfieldMonk. I haven't seen what ArchfieldMonk's been up to the last 5 to 10 minutes here. I think he was at around this point already when we last left him. I think he maybe had gotten to level 9. And it's hard to say how far along he might be now, but here is the 2 keys and the gold chest for Simbu. And will he decide to go further down with the additional key right now? He's got Hurtmore and 27 MP to work with. He could go looking for Erdrick's sword right now, because he's got an extra key. But here's the Armored Knight, might have something to say about that. Alright. So I expect that he may follow the same path that ArchfieldMonk did and will eventually end up with a gold grind in the bottom of the tablet cave in the basement of Tenteagle here after checking the treasury. So let's follow along and see if he decides to go ahead and buy the flame sword with that money. And remember, he also never found Erdrick's armor, so he could potentially grind up some more money for that full plate that we saw. And again, I don't know if we've seen a magic armor anywhere. But, yeah, this is a good turn of events for Simbu, and we are rejoined with ArchfieldMonk, who has reached level 10.
Yep, he looks to have saved the princess, and he was checking his coordinates, so Leads me to believe that Cantland gave him some coordinates, and he's looking for that token.
Yeah, so if there are coordinates, then it has to be the token, because we've already found the flute and the armor. Yeah, so the coordinates will lead him to the token, and he finds it! And so, he is casting Return now. Remember, I think the harp and the stones are both found in Mountain Cave, correct? So we don't know for sure if he's found and navigated through Mountain Cave yet or not. So I guess maybe we can get that information if there's somebody directly in his stream or something. But if he did, then he's got all the items that he needs. If not, then he does have to explore until he finds the Mountain Cave.
Yeah, both these runners, though, even with kind of the lack of keys for the first 20 minutes, have to kind of be feeling good about how the seeds turned out for him so far. 30 minutes, and you have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle already at your disposal, and a couple of decent levels that have popped up here and there with good strength or HP rolls.
Yeah, that 31 power that we got on that one level. Look at on ArchfieldMonk's screen, we're already up into the orange for the strength stat, meaning that there are occasionally circumstances where he could defeat the Dragon Lord with that much strength. And yeah, so we, you know, and we're over into triple digits for HP as well. So it's interesting that we may not need a whole lot more to be Dragon Lord eligible. Unfortunately, this is a seed where the MP stat is lagging tremendously, so that will come into play in the end game. It means that we'll need to wait a little longer before taking on the Dragon Lord. And also for right now, in a seed where you have hurt more, sometimes it's a bit frustrating when you don't have a lot of MP to work with, because you can only hurt more so many enemies, and then you're just out of resources. So I'm curious how far Simbu's going to go with this gold grind, based on all the shops that he's taken a look at, and he knows where all the equipment is now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. With his situation of just being on a copper sword, does he go for the easy to get to broadsword, or does he make the potential walk across to, what was it that had the flame sword? Was it?
Yeah, I think Breckenary had the flame sword and the silver shield, so it's like one-stop shopping. And I think it may have had the full plate right in that shop as well. So, I mean, to me, if I was in the situation, that's where I'm going. If you're worried about it, you can always take a safety save with the king first and make sure that you preserve all that gold. But when you've gone this far into a seed and you haven't found Erdrick's sword yet, it's often kind of important to get the flame sword instead of the broadsword, because you might need to be able to do an end game grind. For example, I think one of those tiles was just a stone man. We haven't seen what was on the Swamp Cave spike tile yet, but and furthermore, if you wanted to do a sword dive down through Sharlock, having the flame sword in a lot of these situations is just superior. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going over there and getting the flame sword, but I don't know. Archfield seems to be fine with the broadsword, using hurt more mostly for this stage of the game. So 25,000 gold to me suggests flame sword and silver shield, and he's just not particularly worried about buying any armor. That's my prediction for Simbu. ArchfieldMonk does dispatch with the Armored Knight, which has been causing both of our runners a bit of a problem. And he reaches level 11 now with just some minor stat gains.
Well, it did give him 12 MP, and since that is the one stat lagging behind, I'd be okay with seeing just a few of those levels pop up.
Yeah, Simbu possibly doesn't quite remember which towns had which shops. Takes a look in Garanham, just had a lot of small weapons, and it did have a full plate, but that's not what he's looking for. There is that one shop, and I'm pretty sure it's in Breckenary, and I don't remember where. I don't think it's this cluster of towns at all. But when all else fails, there's 3 shops right here in Cantland, so you can't go wrong by shopping around in here. There's the silver shield, and if he can't find the flame sword, he can always come back up here and grab that broadsword. And he might just go ahead and go broadsword full plate right now and just forget about that flame sword for now. You can always go and get that later on, maybe. So there we are. upgrades for Simbu.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the other key door shop in there had. I may have considered checking that prior to purchasing there, but it looks like he's really concerned about trying to get the coordinates. Maybe perhaps feels like he's a little bit behind.
Yep, it's always tricky in a Hurt More seed where you feel like everything's fast, fast, fast. A lot of times, you know, how much walking around you do in a town is kind of important, so looks like he just wanted to get the shopping over with so he could move on. Those are some beefy coordinates there, 82 and 64, which we did see ArchfieldMonk was able to zero in on and locate with the Gwaelin's Love. I don't recall where the swamp cave was. I feel like it was kind of a little bit far up in the north. Remember him casting outside the first time, just going straight through. But that's where the princess is located. I don't remember if Simbu has seen that yet. So ArchfieldMonk now has got a pretty commanding lead. We see that he does indeed have the stones and the harp, so he has been through Mountain Cave, and you know, he went through the top of the grave to get the keys. Neither runner, to our knowledge, has gone down into the bottom of the grave. Remember, there's 2 chests further down behind a locked door in the grave, and we haven't yet found Erdrick's sword. So that could come into play a bit later, whether or not you want to dive into Sharlock and look for it first. Do you want to go into the grave and make sure it's not there? Because the longer they go without that sword, the more likely it is that, you know, it isn't Sharlock.
Yeah, I haven't seen either runner go to the back half and look at Garenham's chest or what was down the basement. Assuming one or the other has at that point, though, I think it's, what, like a 7 in 9 chance of being in Sharlock, so kind of a question as to whether or not you would want to check that prior to going, or if you wanted to make the dive through Sharlock to see if it perhaps had the sword.
Right now, ArchfieldMonk, he's running around, and as we see, Simbu has found the staff cave to trade in the harp for the staff, and this may be the location that ArchfieldMonk is still looking for, because he has the harp and the stones and the token. He has Erdrick's armor. He could be going into Sharlock right now to look for the sword, but he may not be able to make that rainbow drop if he can't, if he hasn't yet found this cave, the Staff of Rain cave, where you need to be able to trade in for the staff. So that, I guess, is what he might still be looking for, because he has seen Sharlock. It's just north of Start. And, that's all that separates him from just end-game grinding, basically.
Yep, it's an interesting scenario in which one runner actually has all of the locations that he needs to know known and just has to kind of walk back there and then start grinding, whereas the runner that is ahead in levels doesn't have that last location he needs.
And the other thing, I guess if anyone happened to be watching Archfield's run, he went through Swamp Cave to get the princess, so he knows what the enemy is guarding the princess there for a potential grind later on to get these last few levels. I guess we'll get to see it as soon as Simbu goes and tries to rescue the princess, because I can't imagine them trying to count these coordinates out without having the princess. But, with Hawksness only having the Stone Man there, and I think the Stone Man had a low percentage chance of Dragon Lord Breath on top of everything, looks like I think you'd want to find an alternative for grinding. I'm just not sure what happened to be over there in the Swamp Cave, since we lost access to Archfield's stream for a few minutes at that time when he got the princess. And the third possibility, if you don't like that, is maybe just going straight into Sharlock and grinding your way down for experience that way.
Looks like Swamp south is northeastish of Cole, which I believe is on the western side of the first continent.
And since Simbu got keys, do you recall him going into Garenham to open those 3 chests and check out the basement yet? Because we didn't get to see Archfield do that.
No, I've not seen either runner go into the doorway in Garenham and go back and check see what's down there. I'm assuming it's the jerk at this point, because I think that's all that's left out there.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering maybe what was in those 3 chests, and you know, I'm assuming Archfield's already been in there, and if so, what he could still be missing as far as treasure chests, if they haven't yet found the town of Rimeldar, I don't remember anybody finding that. And here's going to be the spike tile now for Simbu. Let me see here. It's 1 step away. It's not this green dragon, but he is going to hurt more it for... Oh, green dragons have sleep, so let's see if he makes it through this battle, first of all. Yeah, fortunately, with that big power boost on that level, the broadsword's more than enough to finish off the green dragon. And oh, it's an Axe Knight tile guarding the swamp cave, guarding the princess here. So instead of going to Hawk's Nest, which is closer, you might want to make this walk up to the swamp cave and take some time fighting some Axe Knights when you're ready to grind for endgame levels, because that is a really nice situation when you have hurt more.
Yep, and thanks to the tracker again here, we see that Axe Knight is just going to be slapping you too, so no real risk there of getting killed as long as you have the MP ready and available and don't take any risks.
Yeah, not sure how far away it is from a nearby inn or anything like that, but if possible, that is where they're going to be going for grinding. I think Archfield is still hunting around for that staff cave that we saw Simbu find a few minutes ago. And yeah, but I was starting to say, if he hasn't found Rimeldar, there is 1 chest there that could have Erdrick's sword, and here is the staff cave for Archfield. So there's a chest in Rimeldar potentially unopened. They both have opens, the ones in the tablet cave and the stones cave. But there's 1 in Rimeldar, and there's still 2 at the bottom of the grave. So that is a potential gotcha. If they're thinking that the sword is going to be in Sharlock, it could still be in one of those other 3 chests. And so to me, that's a kind of situation. If for example, if Archfield knows where the jerk cave is, gets his rainbow drop, he's sort of done finding things. If he had the flame sword to work with, it might be a better situation for him to go into Sharlock immediately to see if the sword is there, you know, before the levels start getting too high. You don't want to be like diving for the sword like at a level or even like at the previous level to being Dragon Lord eligible. But if you feel like you still have like 3 or 4 levels to go, you might want to fight your way through Sharlock just to look for the sword, and you're kind of gaining experience on the way, but you'd rather have the flame sword to work with if you want to do that than the broadsword. But regardless, Archfield still seems to be looking around, so has he not seen the Rainbow Drop Cave? As you said, I think it has to be in the basement of Garenham at this point.
Yep. Unfortunately, Simbu, apparently when he was talking to the king, did not record, but did opt to hit B at the inopportune time, so he's got a little bit of extra ground now to make up. He just now got back to the silver shield that he had purchased earlier, because that was his last save point.
Wait, so he actually reset a save file? Is that what happened?
He went up to talk to the king with the princess in hand, and I guess pressed B on both steps.
Yeah. I never try to do that for that reason. I always just like, I just A, and like just, you know, he wants to save your game and stuff. So you can potentially save like 2 or 3 seconds of dialogue by canceling the save process from the king. But you risk, basically, yeah, you can, if you never had a save file, you're all the way back at level 1. So If you, because after asking if you want to save, he asks you right away, like, do you want to continue with your game? So if you're saying no, 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 it's like, oh, I don't want to continue the game, and it just like it closes out, and then you have to reload a save file. So, wow, I didn't realize that's what happened. So I don't know how much time he just lost there, but that's pretty devastating.
He lost the time it took for him to find the Staff of Rain and to find Swamps South. So, not a huge XP loss per se, but certainly a few minutes that he lost there.
Yeah, so he had to repurchase the equipment that he did with the gold grind. He had to come back up for the staff cave here. He's going to re-get the staff. Okay. And then he's going to reacquire the princess. Yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe it was like as few as like 5 minutes lost in terms of race purposes here, but it may have been a little bit longer. It's hard to know. That's pretty unfortunate, because it felt like he was making up some ground on the lead that Archfield has built here, but now he's certainly behind.
Yeah, given that Archfield has once again left Garanham behind, I'm making the assumption that he did check the chests and there wasn't a sword in there.
I'm just not sure what his plan is right now, because either he's going in the direction of a grind, or, like, to me, this isn't the direction to enter Sharlock right now. And like, it is possible that people think that there's still a cave out there that you have to find, and they just forgot to go to the back of Garnham to see what that was. And I just hope that's not the case for him.
I'm also wondering if he's trying to find his way back to the last two chests that he has outstanding outside of Sharlock as well.
Like, go back into the grave to clear out the bottom of the grave. That could be it. Maybe, is that where he is now, actually? That could be. This looks like Swamp South, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe he's on his way to the Axe Knight for the grind now. That would make sense.
I mean, I suppose if you knew where the best grind spot was and you already knew where the jerk was located, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to go ahead and grind first and then pick it up. It just kind of was confusing to me that he would pass up on the opportunity while he was in Garanham.
There happens to be green dragons in the hallway, which is pretty much just as good as an Axe Knight at this point. And it's actually not that far from level 13, and these stats are actually pretty good. It's you know, we're lacking with the MP, but we could be like 1 or 2 levels away here. So let's see how this Axe Knight grind goes for him. He's going to pick this level up pretty quickly at 4125. He's 1 Axe Knight away here. Let's see what he gets. Not a whole lot of MP, but 9 power. I mean, we are getting there. This actually might be go time. It's very close. Remember, he's only carrying the broadsword right now, so plus 20 for the Erdrick sword, and we don't have him marked off for the fighter's ring yet either. We're not totally sure if he has it, I guess, but that could be hiding in Sharlock. You're talking about 139 attack power right now. With those items. Unfortunately, he only has 8 heal mores to work with, so it's probably just not quite enough to be able to go with 112 HP. You can't quite rely on double attacks, but it's very close. And you know, it's a pretty quick trip to level 14. The levels are still fairly close together here. So at 56 and change, he'll have level 14. Doesn't look like he's got enough resources to get there on this cycle, so he's going to have to find an inn somewhere or take a death warp. But level 14 could easily be go time.
Yeah, I certainly think if level 14 has just a little bit of MP and health, or at minimum it has to have heal more, right? So As soon as you get heal more,
Yeah.
I guess you can start making that decision.
Yeah, it's true. They've made nice work of this seed actually without having heal more. So of course that's the other requirement. So if 14 has heal more, then it could be go time. Otherwise, you do have to wait for heal more, which could be as late in the game as 16. By then, it's guaranteed that you will learn it. And I'm not sure what he's going back. Did he go to the Hawksness tile for the golem there? Because that is nasty. I would be sticking to that swamp cave with the Axe Knight for sure. I may have seen that wrong, but now he's got another opportunity to pick up the rainbow drop, but nope, he's going to leave that until the end, I guess. Garenham's nearby start, and so is Sharlock, so, you know, you can do that at any time, I guess, just hopefully he doesn't forget about it.
It's a bit unfortunate for Simbu, too, because he still hasn't been able to take this golem down, he just keeps getting the DL2.
Oh, the Stone Man. The Stone Man that has, yeah, because you can put that Stone Man to sleep, and the hurt more works approximately 50-50, and 2 hurt mores can take it down, so yeah, it shouldn't take too many tries, so he is getting fairly unlucky there that he hasn't been able to do it, and it is close to start, and we do see him going straight back there, so he knows he should be able to win that fight, and there's just not a good reason to leave it for any longer. You know, he is going to have to track those coordinates down anyways, because that is going to be the token. But from his perspective, he wants to make sure that, you know, that it's required. Like, I guess it has to be required because he already has the flute. So you know that the overworld coordinates, if they exist. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Is there? Yeah, I mean, if he searches this spot, then he'll know for sure. So. Makes sense for him to do this first.
Yeah, this spot can either be nothing in his viewpoint, or it can be a confirmation that he has both armor and tokens locations known.
Exactly, yeah. So if this had turned out to be nothing, then he would know that the armor is at those coordinates, and he would still have to look in treasure chests for the token, yeah. So from his perspective, he doesn't know for sure that the token is over there. And it does make sense then in that case to get this task out of the way first. And he picks up another level, so this should give him a little more hit points to work with. If he can keep his HP above 72 at all times, he can withstand the Dragon Lord attack. But here we go. Another chance while Archfield is closing in on level 14. Takes a nice snooze this time. Down it goes, and here's the level for Archfield. And only 1 power, 111 and 5 MP, and no spells. So we are going to 15 no matter what, because they don't have heal more. And he does pick up an extra heal more's worth of MP there, but not a whole lot of extra attack power. We could be at 140 if they find the sword and the ring. And that is enough, generally speaking, to balance out the 75 MP. So the stats are a go, assuming it's an easy Sharlock dive. It's just that the heal more is necessary. So going to 15, that's going to be at 7,500 total, which is approximately 12 more Axe Knight victories. He's not going to be able to get that on this cycle. He's going to have to go heal up again and come back. But meanwhile, Simbu does get the armor finally, and he is off trying to find the rest of the things here. He's going to have to track down the token on those coordinates. I guess he did not get the princess a second time. He got it that one time, right? But then his game reset, so...
Yep, he's currently going to have to rescue her a second time to be able to get the coordinates location just a little bit easier. I mean, some people are really good at counting, but with 82 north, 64 west, and likely being a second continent, I would not be able to do it myself for sure.
Yeah, I haven't been able to. When I'm watching the split screen like this, it's hard to keep track of the map. Sometimes it's only one continent, and I haven't been able to tell if this is a one continent situation in this case. But even so, those are some pretty tough coordinates to count. And if it is on the second continent, sometimes it's just almost impossible. So, off to get the princess again, I suppose, is Simbu. And he's going to be closing in on level 11, but Archfield does have a commanding lead now, I would say somewhere in the 10 to 15 minute range for a lead, which is, approximately 2 feraled Sharlock dives. We all know how that can happen. We do have golems with Dragon Lord Breath, among other things. But he is making good progress through the seed, taking the inn here to refresh his MP so that he can go back in, fight more Axe Knights, get level 15, and see if he gets heal more out of that.
Yeah, based on what we've seen on some of the higher tier enemies, we've seen, 2 of them have DL2 breath, both golems and stonemen have it. I haven't seen any red dragons or anything otherwise that would say, hey, these guys also have some pretty nasty stuff.
Well, this green dragon here has sleep, but I don't think it follows up with hurt more or DL2 breath. But as long as you're not defense breaking it, which right now they have very poor agility, which translates to low defense, the green dragon can put you to sleep and damage you for 20 or 25 at a time. So that's a potential problem if they don't get some more defense power. It takes 88 defense power before you're defense breaking a green dragon. But Simbu is on the grind now with the... Well, no, he's got to get through the Axe Knight to get to the princess, but it does give him the knowledge that this is a nice grind spot for a little bit later. And Archfield has to be closing in now on 15. He's still just under 7,000, so he's still got a little ways to go. But yeah, that thing with the double no in front of the king, I feel like I've done that one time, and I will never attempt to do that again. I will just always say yes, 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 save the game, that's fine, and just move on. Like, we can never risk that happening. That's just such an unfortunate thing for Simbu.
Yeah, I've seen it happen once more in a relatively big race, and it cost a runner probably closer to 30 to 35 minutes of their run. So fortunate for him that really it cost him 5 minutes in a run that would have been probably within 5 minutes, so it's kind of put him past the first failed Sharlock dive scenario. But at least he didn't lose a larger chunk of time to that, so it does give him a chance still.
So here, he does press yes, 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 yes on this go around, saves the game, press A, boom, he's in and out of there. And you might want to take a little in at one of these 3 towns that are nearby, but... Or he can always heal up here with this old man who refreshes your MP for free. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit of a walk in and out of this particular heal spot, unless you cast Return to get straight out of the castle. That's always possible. But he is going to take the walk in and out. And what is next for Simbu? I think he still needs to track down that token on the overworld, and then he's pretty much ready to go as well.
Yeah, again, I think it's just, well, it looks like we may be walking towards the rainbow drop now on...
Yeah, Archfield got heal more on 15, and his stats are a clear go, so... especially with the 132 HP, if he had the Death Necklace, he could even use that if he so chose at this point, so... definitely go time, gotta get the rainbow drop out of the basement here. And okay, maybe he got it and we missed him getting it because he just continues to not go back there. I don't know. So now he's going to make sure he has herbs for the dive, which is always a fairly important aspect. And anytime the numbers are fairly close, you want to make sure you have herbs to save on any unnecessary healing. And Sharlock is just to the north from start. And it's only an hour in, so this has been a pretty quick seed.
Yep. On the bright side, it will not be a long walk if he has made...
He is walking right by Sharlock. Is this the Rainbow Drop Cave? Oh.
No, I thought this was a grave.
So could he be thinking that he needs to look in here for the sword before going into Sharlock? That would be an interesting play. When he was doing all that grinding on the Axe Knight, to me, like, if you're going to do this, you kind of want to do that ahead of time, because now this is just lost time, I think. Unless the sword is here, and then you're gaining time. So you got about a 2 out of 10 chance right now that it's down here somewhere.
Yeah, I guess maybe with the Armored Knight down in the grave, he wanted to grind to the point where he had heal more to make it easier to kind of progress down to the bottom. But it is kind of the interesting decision of not going through Sharlock. I guess it's just a time save in most scenarios where the sword isn't in there, obviously, but I guess you kind of feel bad if you dive all the way down Sharlock and you don't find the sword and suddenly have to turn around.
Yeah, that's why, to me, whenever you want to do that, you want to do it early, when you're, like, you still have a few levels to go, because then, you know, while you're going through Sharlock, you're gaining experience, so you're not really losing too much time if it's not go time yet. But if it's already go time and you're just basically running from enemies all through Sharlock, and then the sword's not there, yeah, then that's a pretty big problem. The trouble is, there was an Axe Knight grind available. It's so hard to give up the Axe Knight grind to go do something else, you know, because the Axe Knight yields such fast experience that that's usually the right thing to do, is to just stick with the Axe Knight. But now that leaves him in this situation where, well, he did pick up the Fighter's Ring here, so that wasn't in Sharlock, so that's a good +2 for him, which is going to make his numbers work out a little bit better once he gets the sword. But yeah, this was an interesting decision here, so he's going to make his way all the way down to the 5th chest, I guess. And I don't know that if he ever found Rimuldar. There's one chest there, but it's possible that he found it while he was offline. And if that's the case, then after getting this chest here, he'll know for sure that it's in Sharlock. He's like running back and forth over the chest because he doesn't have any light source, but just a gold chest, so he's all done with that task. Now he's used some magic now too, so he's going to have to take an in one way or the other, and I'm not sure if he has the drop yet or not, but he'll be going over towards Garenham just to use the in anyways. Refusing to use Repel, running into a bunch of slimes, but he's made it. And Simbu just, I think, still tracking down that token.
Yeah, so it must have been when he was offline, he must have checked and known that this was here and that those chests were not the sword, would be my guess based on his action so far.
Yep, that absolutely makes sense. So now he has the Rainbow Drop and full resources to just walk directly into Sharlock. And yeah, it's interesting because I don't think we saw Simbu if I ever find Rimuldar, right? So there's just that one chest out there. I just wonder if ArchfieldMonk had found it and opened it. And but we're going in. We're going to look for the sword in Sharlock. He has exactly one key to work with, which you'll need to open the treasury at the bottom of Sharlock Castle. So, for example, if it's not there, well, if you do find Rimuldar, you can buy keys right at that town before going in and opening the chest, I guess. It's not that big a deal if he runs out of keys at this point. The worst case scenario would be if he opens the door to the treasury and then gets killed by an enemy before, you know, opening the chests. And then he'll be out of keys. But hopefully for him that won't happen. Things will go nice and smoothly. So we do have Armored Knights in Charlock so far, which can be a problem with this low agility score. Now, Archfield's agility has creeped up into the orange, as opposed to Simbu, who has very poor agility. But it's still fairly difficult for him to run from an Armored Knight with only 71 agility. And with full gear, it puts him at 85 defense power, which allows the Dragon Lord second form to still do about 49 damage maximum. So that stat is not so great for him, but his other stats are compensating for it, so he still has a shot to win here. Runs from a red dragon as well, so this is not an easy Charlock, especially if you're not going to be fighting these things. Remember, he only has the broadsword, never upgraded to the flame sword, and doesn't yet have Erdrick's sword, so fighting your way through a red dragon, it could take like 4 hits to kill a red dragon, so it's sort of, both options are not that great. If you try and run away from it, it could just block you just about forever, since the agility score is kind of low. But if you fight it, it's almost like you have to burn these herbs or heal more anyways, because they're difficult to kill, so. Tough Charlock so far, Armored Knights and Red Dragons in the first zone.
Yeah, a lot of heavy-hitting enemies, and I guess at minimum they are all mostly using attacks, so it's not a situation where you're going to get sleep-locked into getting attacked or hurt more or deal 2'd, but still going to chip you down slowly and eventually cost you most of your herbs and potentially some of your MP.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens if he does get blocked multiple times or whatever. I think that he would probably have a heal more that he could burn here and still be okay, because he's got a lot of HP to work with, which gives you a good chance at double attacks against Dragon Lord's second form, but obviously it would be way better if he could conserve it all and just make it all the way there with 9 heal mores in his pocket. The first step, though, is he's got to get this sword.
Yep, and you're seeing some of the experience that he's had, I guess, through his tracking and through some of his offline practices, because he is doing this without even burning a torch, which is not the easiest thing in the world in some of the rooms on the way down, because they have those little cubbies that you can kind of walk into on accident and cost you a couple of bonks or a little bit of time at least.
Yeah, there is actually one floor in particular I think that's very difficult to get through in the dark. But he is making nice work of it. He's, I think, about halfway down through. He's in the second zone now. And, he was in the third zone, in fact, because now he's on the bottom floor. And remember, I think this is his last key, so he doesn't want to get killed as soon as he steps through this doorway. And the Stone Man has Dragon Lord 2 breath. And whacks him with it. Does get away, and remember the sword could be not here, but in the other, and there's the death necklace, which he could put to use also, by the way. There's one additional chest way up on the second floor, but there it is! He's got everything he needs now. Death necklace optional.
Yep, had both of those attack bonuses in Charlock, look like the $150 and $300 chest.
Trying to think of the worst possible mini-boss that could be here. I guess the Golem with the DL2 breath, although he does have that flute, which occasionally is a very useful item to have. It's oftentimes pretty worthless, but once in a while, you're glad that you have it, so... just has to get over to the mini-boss and through towards the Dragon Lord without burning any healing, and he should be a nice favorite for this fight here. Alright, it's a Stone Man, and interestingly, there is some spare MP available where he can use the sleep spell twice without running into burning the potential heal mores for the Dragon Lord fight. So it's nice to have that extra MP to work with instead of wasting it on Radiant or something like that for exactly that reason, because you have to get through the mini-boss in order to get access to the Dragon Lord fight here. So no problem. It's got full resources. Doesn't use the Death Necklace. He's going to fight it straight up. Use the 132 hit points for potential double attacks. Here we go. Dragon Lord 1, 51 damage, and he gets a stop spell. Beautiful beginning to the fight. And only takes 15 damage from the physical attack, so that's pretty much a dream DL1. If he doesn't get back attacked here, he's a huge favorite. He does get back attacked because the low agility makes it a little bit more likely. So now it's a little bit close, guys. Starts with 12. 12 is on the low side. He needs to not roll too far below average here. There's another 12. I think that was a 19 there. For 43. We're going to call that 58.
Yep.
I think he's still a favorite here, but it's pretty close unless he gets a double attack somewhere here. 78. Really nice to see that 20. I think we're at 93 with about 4 heal mores to go, so still a nice favorite here. 113 almost gets a double attack, but he's going to have to heal. Getting a lot of fire breaths from the Dragon Lord. Up to 131 if my fuzzy math is correct, so still should be okay. Getting some good rolls. Gets a double attack, and that will do it. He's got more than enough resources, barring a miss menu. This is a lock now to win. Just one more attack here. Get your GGs out. Your first place finisher in this race, ArchfieldMonk. He's going to go sub 75 minutes in this race. A very nice time and a well-run race from ArchfieldMonk's going to go 1-0 in the tournament. Looking forward to week 2. Always have to wait for that princess to finish up talking before you can officially declare yourself done with the seed. But it's all over now. The accolades are starting up. ArchfieldMonk has won the race. Official time, 1 hour, 12 minutes, 37 seconds. Well done.
Yep, really well played seed, and kind of just took advantage of what the seed gave the runners early, which was a lot of knowledge, and was able to kind of eliminate kind of the last few chests he hadn't checked before going up to Sharlock and grabbing the Sword and Death Necklace for the potential damage he needed to finish off DL2. So, all in all, just did what he needed to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, he got off to a pretty good start in those early levels where he had some poor stats before learning Hurt More. He seemed to get through those levels just a bit more efficiently than his opponent this time. And then once he got Hurt More, he was able to find a bunch of locations nearby pretty quickly. As you said, a bunch of towns, a bunch of caves. And then one of the keys for him, I feel like, was that he was the first one to go in the direction of and to find the grave. And the grave had keys in the top section there, which enables him to warp back to a gold grind, get some equipment, and gave him access to other areas that he previously couldn't get to, so he was able to round up the quest items a little bit faster from there. get into grind and go, and yeah, so it all kind of came together for him a little bit easier than his opponent Simbu tonight, and just a really nice race.
Yep. Master seems to think that one try golem with both Hurtmores going on the 50-50 roll also was a huge contributor to the early success that he had. But it's always nice to see that Simbu didn't actually lose the race on some sort of missed menu on the king, because I don't think even with that missed menu that really actually puts him close enough to have been in the Dragon Lord 2 fight scenario by the time that his opponent had finished.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, ArchfieldMonk had gone out to a little bit of a lead before that had happened, and I think, you know, finished out the seed pretty efficiently. So I didn't see any particular chance for his opponent to be able to make up ground there. But you're right. I mean, it is frustrating for him to have that happen, but he's finishing out the seed admirably, and you know, he can always kind of add up his time on his own and kind of subtract out what he lost or whatever. But you know, so he's going to end up with a pretty nice run himself. You know, a run that would have been well under an hour and a half had that not happened, which is always good. 90 minutes seems to be about the average time for a randomizer seed to last. So these runners are showing that you know, they kind of know what they're doing when it comes to this tournament, and they can they have a good chance to get some wins under their belt here. So ArchfieldMonk, I think, is in the waiting room, so if anybody has the ability to drag him into commentary, we might be able to chat with him for a minute. And while we're waiting for that, we have Simbu does have the Erdrick's armor and the silver shield, and has all the quest items now, so he's basically in grind and go mode from here as well. And I think we might have ArchfieldMonk joining us. Congratulations!
Thank you very much.
So I guess just give us how you think the seed went from your perspective.
Well, for the most part, I mean, that was kind of a jet, wasn't it? There were the early Hurtmore, and then just I hadn't even wandered off screen, I think, in the first few minutes, but then to find 3 towns nearby, I mean, it was just kind of set up to be a pretty quick.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on the map was fairly close, it seemed like to me, and then to have the 2 towns be, you know, Garenham and Cantland, so by the time you did get keys, those are kind of the 2 towns where you need to use the keys, you know, so you got some chests behind Garenham, and you got the coordinates to go gather up. So one of the keys for you, pun not really intended, is that you were able to get keys quite a bit faster than your opponent by locating and navigating through the grave, which there were 2 keys on the top floor there that enabled you to run back. Fortunately, there was a gold grind available in that tablet cave, which is kind of amusing. So you geared up a little bit, and that just kind of opened it up for you. You already had Hurtmore at that point, so you're making progress, but just in order to get the quest items, that was, you know, one of the things I think that propelled you forward. You also were able to find that Erdrick's armor on your first try, right? The Stone Man was a little bit problematic, but you got it on your first try.
Yeah, I'll usually chance, if I have sleep and Hurtmore and enough HP that I think I can survive a few hits, I'll try it out just to see if it happens, and I think I missed maybe the first 2 or 3 Hurtmore shots. So that was a bit fortuitous as well, and just being able to get to those top 2 keys in the grave, like you said, I was feeling pretty good about it after that point, just because the grave was really kind of extant. It was the only thing there to the north, and pretty much everything else was either clustered there around Tantagel or else to the west. So to stumble upon that was pretty lucky. I wasn't super thrilled with some of my routing choices after that, but it worked out.
Yeah, that's right. At the end, every time we thought you were gonna go gather up the rainbow drop, you just like went a different direction. It's like, well, we're pretty sure the rainbow drop is behind Garanham in the basement there, but just kept kind of went doing other things in the meanwhile. And what about the decision to go dig out the grave when you had go time stats?
Well, speaking of not very happy with routing decisions, that was obviously not important. I don't really know why I did that in hindsight, because it was very likely that the sword was in Charlock Treasury or in Charlock somewhere, and never mind the Death Necklace, which I hadn't really run the numbers on the Death Necklace because I really didn't think it would be necessary one way or the other. But chances are decent that I I obviously didn't need to go back to bottom 2 of grave, so that was a time waste, and I couldn't even really tell you what I was thinking on that one. It was just a poor decision, so I'm gonna have to try to avoid that sort of thing in the future.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, it seemed like I don't know if you thought about it after the fact, or because you were grinding on that Axe Knight for a long time. I suppose you could have like left that a level earlier and like went through the grave at that time or something. But it's always a chance, because you know, that Axe Knight grind is just so nice. You don't want to like leave that. And at that point, I think you were just looking for heal more, right? Because that's required to beat the game. So all of a sudden, 15 came with heal more, and you're like, all right, now what? And then you went into the grave. I was like, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, interesting is one word. But yeah, I was really looking for heal more at that point. I didn't really want to leave that grind spot until I had either 15 or heal more, so that I knew that if I had 15 and didn't have heal more yet, then that was just pretty much a straight dive and fight my way down to get heal more.
Interestingly, speaking of that same scenario, we're seeing Simbo actually go into the bottom of the grave right now as we speak. But he's still on level 13, so he's doing it like a little bit earlier on, where he still does need experience, but that's just funny. So it turns out you're both going into the grave anyways. He had a, you know, it wouldn't have mattered for the final result, but he had a little bit of a hiccup where when he rescued the princess, he did a double negative in front of the king and lost his save there. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but...
Oh yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, it just like closes out your game. Now, he had previously saved after doing the gold grind, so I don't know, maybe it was like a 5-minute loss or something, but it was still like, you know, it's one of those things he had to deal with. He had to run around and recollect a few things and stuff, but you still had a pretty good lead over him at that point. I think you were up 600 or 700 points on experience, like a level and a half ahead, and you know, you had found some of the quest items previously, so a lot of things just seemed like it went a little better for you in this one.
Yeah, for sure. I felt like the exploration was pretty lucky. I'm willing to bet there was just a whole lot of map out there north of Charlock that would have been essentially a complete waste of time, because I think I found everything except for Remulder, interestingly enough. I don't believe I ever set foot in Remulder.
Yeah, and I kept wondering if the sword was going to be in there.
Oh, that was what was terrifying me. And then I to dive bottom two of grave, and then dive Charlock, and then it
right.
turns out the sword is in Remulder. That would just be, yeah, very painful.
Yep, and that's tough, because on that same discussion point, when you did your gold grind, you settled for the broadsword, and so for me, like, just getting the flame sword, if something like that were to happen, it's like maybe as like a backup plan, you could like just win with the flame sword, you know. But you're certainly probably not going to win with the broadsword. So it's a good thing the sword was in the treasury.
For sure. It was in the back of my mind a little bit when I was grinding. I just thinking, after we got the 1 level, I think that was 11 or 12 that we had that 31 strength gain, and I thought, well, you know what, if I keep grinding here and heal more's on 16, it could be possible that we pick up enough strength to win with the broadsword. In hindsight, I mean, I usually, when I gold grind, generally speaking, I won't
especially
go
with the
after a
death
flame
necklace,
sword.
maybe.
Yeah, for sure. So I usually don't go for flame sword. I feel like there's not as big an advantage. As it turned out, this was precisely the sort of seed where that would have been extraordinarily useful. So that didn't work out especially well. But on the balance, I find just picking up a broadsword usually works out okay.
Well, there was the town of Breckenary, which, you know, was a little further away than, you know, the ones near Start, but it had just everything there. The flame sword and the silver shield was there. So it wouldn't have really been like an extra trip or anything to go for the flame sword, but it was just, you know, you happen to just go to Cantland and that had the broadsword and the silver shield. So it was just, you know, just one of those things. I was just wondering if that was going to come back to bite you guys. It turned out that Simbu did the same thing, and he went through the whole game with the broadsword too. And I was like, oh, it's interesting because the flame sword sometimes is really useful, but yep. So it was good that you did find the sword in the treasury, so it all worked out. Now we have Simbu going into Sharlock, I think just kind of hoping that 14 is going to have heal more. And we know that he's going to have to get another level in here. It's a little bit tough because he's not defense breaking any enemies yet in Sharlock. With you guys had some pretty low agility and defense power. He's on 13 and still only 58 agility, which is just abysmal. We're not even in the orange yet for agility. And the defense power, even with the silver shield, we're not even doing well against any Sharlock enemies yet. So for him to be able to maintain his MP here, it looks like he's using up some. Yeah, nice race from you, ArchfieldMonk. You're going to be 1-0 going into the next round of the Swiss.
Yeah, it's exciting. Feels pretty good to be able to win that first one, but of course, being in the 1-0 bracket, well, really doesn't matter where you finish up. We know what this tournament is like. Everybody can beat anybody, so it's good to get that first one under the belt. But a lot of work to do.
Yeah, good points. It's in theory, it's going to be tougher for you next week because 1-0s always face another 1-0 when it comes to Swiss brackets, and anybody that's 0-1 will, for the most part, face an 0-1 opponent in week 2. So that's how that's going to work, and we'll have 5 rounds of Swiss. And so it's nice that you already have 1 win under your belt, because if you finish the Swiss portion with a winning record, then I think you're guaranteed a playoff spot. So you're part of the way there already.
Yeah, 1/3 of the way to that at least. So that's it's a good start.
I don't know if you had any questions for him, Fury. We're just watching Simbu try and finish this out now. It's going to take another dip into Sharlock, just about at level 14.
I think you had it pretty well covered. I mean, I guess really the deciding factor was not getting DL2 breath by the stone golem right before grabbing the armor. I think that was the one thing that kind of pushed Simbu away from getting his Herdrick's armor for quite some time.
Yeah, Simbu, unfortunately, I think he went in there a few different times, didn't he? And then every time it didn't work out for him, he kind of like left it for a little later and a little later. It's tough when that happens. It just feels like you're running into a brick wall, but it's like if the armor's there, it's kind of important. And it's always hard to know if you should just keep trying or like leave it for another time. I don't know. And the token had to be tracked down, so it was like all the search spots. Well, the easiest one was Cole had the flute, but you guys all found that first. So then the other 2 search spots had to be tracked down in the end.
It's one of those less common situations in which the flute actually ended up being quite useful in the seed.
Especially with the agility that we had, I was getting run blocked by golems and stonemen rather frequently. So the flute saved my bacon on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, it's always good when somebody thinks of a small detail that's like uncommon, but it's it's part of the game. There is a reason for the flute, and you guys both actually thought to go in and actually use the flute in some of those battles, which you don't always see that. So yep, some of the small details. You guys both showed that you're pretty skilled with this game and you understand a lot of these small points. So it was fun to watch.
Speaking of the small details, probably one of the first races in which we've actually seen someone take advantage of the fairy water that's freely available if you have the money.
Oh yeah, tell us about that, Archfield.
Well, that was kind of a whim. When I have hurt more early, I basically it's ideal to be able to repel a lot of those lower tier enemies so you don't have to spend resources on fighting them or just running away from them. So I thought, you know what, I can grab a couple fairy water, and at least I think our defense was in the 20s at that point, so that was repelling, most of the enemies that I really didn't want to use hurt more on. So I don't know if it was a great decision, but it's the one I made, and I was reasonably happy
especially
with it.
especially if you take a death, like in order to get away from the castle, you're running through all zones that just have all small enemies, right? So it's like sometimes if you have a couple of those stored up, and you're saving some time each time running through those zones.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't have even thought of it, but Magru happened to mention it, I think, yesterday in the Discord, and I thought, oh, you know what? I can get rid of some of these Zone 0 and Zone 1 enemies when I'm making my way back and forth from Tantagel, so...
Yeah, it's just a new, I like the way you routed through. You can go to the inn first, and then you take the north trip up to the shop. You did whatever shopping you were going to do, and then you just took like a right turn and went straight for the fairy water. It didn't seem like it was any time loss or anything. It was, I like that that's open now. It's nice that he took that doorway off because, it can be useful, and I think it was useful in that situation today. I liked how you did that. So while Simbu is wrapping up, I'm trying to think of what else we have going on. I kind of feel like there's a late race coming up tonight. Let me just see. Yeah, there is going to be an 11 p.m. race in about 25 minutes with Jay Coper and Chitin 619. So, after this race is over, it probably won't be long before that one fires up. I think there's one currently happening at 10 p.m. also on a different network, so races all over the place all the time. This is like a bonanza here at tournament time. It's crazy when everybody has to squeeze a race in once a week. I was wondering if they were going to make it so that it was every 2 weeks or something, for everybody to have a race, but since everyone's racing every week, it's like there are multiple races going on every day because there's so many people in this tournament this time. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. There's 32 races a week, and it's just astonishing to me that we've managed to get all of them restreamed to this point. So, thanks to MathGirl for jumping in to restream this one, and to both you up to NG and Fury for commentating on it. And I think Smashy was doing the tracking, right? Yeah, so we give him a shout out too.
Oh yeah, everybody's been pitching in here and there. It's pretty cool to see because I kind of felt like we were going to be really short on people doing these, just given how the sheer volume of races going on. But so far so good. Let's see if we can keep it going. I know you've done your share of tracking in the past and such things, so it's always good.
Yeah, I always look forward to that. It's a lot of fun.
Simbu is just a few fights short of level 15 now. If he can manage to get it before completely running out of resources here. Oh, he must have gone back in. I thought he was low on resources, so I guess he must have death warped and now he's just going in again. But he'll certainly get it on this run. Regardless of whether or not he actually makes it down for the sword, he'll get heal more here in just a minute or so, and then it'll be time to go. So while we're on the subject, I think I see 7 races scheduled for tomorrow, guys. So anybody that's still in here watching, keep up with your schedules and, stay tuned. There's all sorts of action coming tomorrow. We have, I think, a fairly early in the day game between Bobski and the Amused Miniature. Bryce Solf and the Hangry Canuck tomorrow at about 6 p.m. Eastern. High Spirits and Cyberdark 86 will be facing off at 7 p.m. The channel hasn't been determined for that one yet. got Ichbin and Jacquemus Wedge scheduled for 8 p.m. tomorrow, which I think that one is on purpose not going to be restreamed. But that's fine because we have tons of races to cover tomorrow, including a pretty big one between Tilo and Ness Cardinality. Possibly the matchup of the week. So we'll see how that goes. Two of the very strong runners, just by sheer chance, happen to be colliding here in week 1 of the Swiss rounds. That's happening tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. I think that one might be scheduled for a different network. And we also have Centroid 41 tomorrow night against you, Fury SK. What do you think about that one?
Given I'm relatively new to the scene, I'm just kind of hoping to progress on my own kind of work, and if I can do well in my own right on kind of where I am, then I'm content, win or lose.
Yeah, it's always good. It's all supposed to be in good fun, so I like that attitude. That's fantastic. I don't know how much Centroid's been racing like recently, but I know in the previous tournament he went off to an amazing start. I think he was either 4-0 or 5-0 in the Swiss rounds or something. So for a while there he was making a big splash, but I haven't really seen much of him in the last 6 months or so. So yeah, that'll be a fun one. That's tomorrow at 10. And a frequent commentator, Ferran Burgundy, is jumping into the tournament, and he's scheduled for tomorrow night at 10 as well against BASP 33. So, and there's additional races already scheduled for later in the week as well, so tons of stuff happening.
It's kind of fun to see some of the people that do a lot of the tracking and commentary coming into this tournament. And either right before this tournament, putting up a pretty big win against some big names, or coming into the tournament with a 1-0 start.
Alright, so this Axe Knight is going to do it, assuming he is successful. So there it is, crosses the 7,500 point threshold, and Simbu is going to get the small stat gains, but the big heal more bonus. Actually, there were some decent stats for agility and hit points there, which does make the dive on 15 quite a bit easier than it would have been on 14 anyways, but if he wants to take a look at the stats, I'm wondering if he's just going to abort and outside out of here immediately, or if he's going to continue on and look for the sword on this dive. It's not strictly necessary. He also only has 1 key. I was commenting, Archfield, I think you were down to your last key when it was time to go in and check the treasury in Charlock, and like the worst scenario would be to open that door and then get like put to sleep by a green dragon or something and just like get killed like before you could open all the chests. So
yeah, that was and in fact, as I was walking to the treasury, I suddenly had a total panic that I didn't have any keys left, because I knew I had to use one to get into the Rainbow Drop Cave, or into the back of Garanham for the drop, and I realized I had lost count, and I was just like, oh my goodness, what if I just
I saw it once when you were using your herbs on the way down, and just like I saw that there was the 1 key sitting there. I was like, oh, that's interesting, he's on his last key, and which works out great when it works out, because you didn't waste time, buying more keys. But it's funny because the one thing you guys never even found was Rimmildar. So I suppose in the worst case you could have like dipped back into the grave to get a key or something. It was like,
I think that's what I would have had to do. I didn't remember seeing one anywhere else. Because there were 2 key chests in the grave, so there are only 3 total in any given seed, right? When there ended up being one in the treasury, so.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, just one of those things that worked out well, and Simbu is going to take the death to this red dragon here, and hopefully just go for game, even though I don't think he has the Erdrick sword yet. I can't recall which chest he might be missing. I think he also has not found Rimmildar, so there's 1 chest there. We did see him go and dive the grave out, so he's all set with that. So he should be pretty confident also that the sword is going to be in Charlock. So I expect now that he has heal more to attempt the victory run here. Just double checking that he has everything. He's even got some wings. I think you guys learned return pretty early, but that's always one of those things. Choosing not to repel, just saving up all the MP just in case, which turned out to be useful for you. Same situation, you had like the 5 MP left over, and it ended up being a stone man on the mini boss. So it's always nice to have a few extra MP kind of lying around so you could cast sleep or stop spell or something.
Yeah, there was that one green dragon I almost decided to cast stop spell because I think I was asleep for 3 or 4 turns and then woke up again and I'm like, well, should I try to run and risk getting sleep blocked or just cast stop spell? I hadn't tried stop spell was the thing, so I didn't really know if it would be effective.
Well, I don't remember if the Stone Man was a magic user or if he just had the DL2 breath.
Oh, yeah, the Stone Man just had the DL2 breath. That was in reference to the green dragon that had put me to sleep at one point. I think it was not too far outside the treasury.
Yeah, and you weren't defense breaking him, so yeah, like you said, in theory, if you stayed asleep for a long time, that could be a problem. Oh man, yeah, a lot of small things.
A terrible death, being asleep for 10, asleep twice, and then for a total of however many turns.
Yeah,
being chipped away at even with 138.
So this is a cool feature. Our tracker's bringing up the stats for the Stone Man that existed in this particular seed. So we see that he did have a 75% chance of the DL2 breath, assuming he was not in his healing range. So he also had regular heal. I did not recognize him ever doing that. But in order for him to cast heal, he has to be on the bottom 25% of his HP. And to be honest, I don't remember if that's based on his max HP or if it's based on the HP that he actually started with. But at any rate, if he was within that range, then he had a 50% chance to cast heal. I think at least by the end game, you guys had enough attack power to punch through that if he started doing that. But you were doing 30 or 40 damage every time you swung at it by the end.
Yeah, once we had the sword at the trap tile, I think I was doing 50 or 55, so...
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things. It's kind of fun when you think about the way that the designers went about designing these enemies with just the simple mechanics with the stats that they had to work with. So they made the Stone Man have only 40 agility, which means that his defense, quote-unquote defense, which is based on your agility, is really low. So you get to do tons of damage to a Stone Man, generally speaking, because he has very low defense. But then they gave him really high hit points to compensate for that. And then they also threw him in Group 4 in terms of run blocking. But he doesn't block so often as the Red Dragon because his agility is really low. So it's I don't know, a lot of little things like that. You'll notice if you study the enemy stats, it's all things that the designers thought about to make them all have slightly different personalities and whatnot. But it's cool. Going back to the 8-bit days, they did a nice job.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really interesting point about the characterizations, because you have the Stoneman and the Golem who are very slow but have the big HP, and then you have enemies like, say, a Rogue Scorpion has a ton of agility and therefore very good defense but not much HP. So they put a lot of thought into the way they decided to design these enemies.
Think about the Metal Slime, for example. So in the original game, you can't really get to the Metal Slime on level 1 or something. It's just unrealistic for you. Where they actually appear on the map, it's all surrounded by strong enemies, so you got to be at a fairly high level. So what they did in order to get it to seem like it just was running away all the time is they just gave it a really low strength score, because that's the formula that they chose to decide when they're going to run away. It's a strength versus strength comparison. So by the time you ever see a Metal Slime in the original game, they just always run away from you, and it gives it this personality, oh, this is a weird little enemy that's you can hardly damage it at all, and yet it's scared and it runs away, and if you're finally lucky enough to actually defeat it, it gives all this experience and stuff. So it's that's something that obviously they thought a lot about, to give it a certain personality that was different from the other enemies, and they did it by just tweaking the stats and like in relation to the formulas that they came up with for the stats. So I don't know, it's pretty cool stuff. So I missed what happened there with Simbo, guys. Did he fail to the Dragon Lord, or something happened? Did he get sleep blocked?
He's just getting beat up on runs, trying to get up to the, or I guess down to the bottom floor.
Oh, the top couple of
zones. Run
zones.
blocking.
Yeah, there were some Arbor Knights and Red Dragons right in those first couple of zones in Archfield. Somehow you made it through there without burning any resources, but...
Yeah, well, I got pretty lucky, I think. And then the one decision that I made that I thought I might regret, I decided to fight that one Red Dragon on Basement 2. And I think that ended up being a pretty good decision, because I think I had close to max HP, and I tried to run once and didn't make it. And I thought, well, if I swing through here, I can probably kill it. And I managed to. And I don't think I saw another one on that floor, and I'm pretty sure there weren't any in the zones below that, or at least I didn't see any. So I think my dive was pretty fortunate, to be honest.
Yeah, the lower zones seemed better, for sure. It was those upper zones. I saw a lot of red enemies. With 71 agility, it's pretty tough sometimes to run from those. And I think you fought your way through the Red Dragons, but I don't know if you were running from the Armored Knights. I don't know, it was some combination.
Yeah, I think I had pretty good run success from a lot of things, which is unusual given where our agility ended up. So I feel like I got pretty lucky there. But I knew I didn't have the resources to fight everything that might run block me, so it was just a matter of being fortunate.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to happen to him again.
Yeah, it's tough because you get to this situation where you really don't want to use these heal mores. The numbers are fairly close, and he's already down a heal more here with just 69 MP. I think it's still winnable there, especially if he does find and use the Death Necklace. Although at these attack power stats, the Death Necklace has diminishing returns when you're already up over 140. To use the Death Necklace and get up to 150 actually doesn't gain you as much as you might think. But it's still an option, and I think if he gets there with these 8 heal mores, he still has a reasonable chance to be victorious. If he can get out of these zones, he'll have a great shot. Just needs to stop running into Armored Knights and Red Dragons. And he must have like burned up all his torches and stuff on previous runs through, right? So now he's kind of like bonking around in the dark trying to make his way down. I'm actually impressed every time. I think you did the same, Archfield, but like everybody seems to be running Sharlock in the dark, and I only do that as a last resort. I try so hard to like make sure that I have a torch.
Yeah, it's the room he's going in now that always trips me up. It's kind of the diamond shape that you have to walk through. I somehow managed to walk myself into the little cubby holes that are kind of persistent in there. Just about every time I do it in the dark.
I think that's the hardest room to get through as well. And there are Red Dragons in this middle zone as well. I wasn't sure if it was just the top zone or if it was in the top 2 zones, but manages to get away from that one with 71 agility, so that's good. But you're right, this diamond-shaped room is tough, and it's at least twice in the last week or so there's been a discussion offline about this, and honestly, if you're going to start trying to run through these in the dark, if anyone out there is getting into this game, it's really very helpful to keep your sound on. A lot of people run some of these retro games like with no sound, so they can listen to music and things like that, but just having like the little bonking sounds when you're running into walls and stuff, you would be surprised how helpful that is when you're like trying to get through in the dark. So unfortunately, he's going to burn a couple of more heal mores against this Red Dragon here. This dive is going nowhere fast now. I don't know that it's possible any longer. Maybe one of the things he could try is just to get an additional level now. But he's going to continue down. At the very least, maybe he could get the sword. And then that might make like maybe getting another level a bit easier or something.
Yeah, I think I'd basically taken the tack that if ended up having to use a heal more, then it would turn into a sword dive, and I'd try to clear out the treasury if possible.
Yep, that seems to be his approach right now. Just get to the treasury and get your sword, potentially your death necklace, and then go back out and maybe beat your way through a couple of the smaller HP pools instead of trying to run through them, given the agility is not worked out for him.
If you do get the sword, then fighting your way down becomes, I won't say trivial, but certainly you can save a lot more resources because with that attack power, I think I ended at 141. You can plow through a lot of those enemies that are difficult to run.
I think he's down to the 3rd zone now at this point, or is just about to enter it, so it looks like he may have finally gotten through the gauntlet of tough stuff. This is where he's definitely going to have to burn through heal mores if he does get into encounters, because that was his last key as well.
And there it is! Gets his hands on the sword. He has the death necklace as well if he wants to go that route. And, oh my gosh, he's putting on the death necklace immediately. Okay. Well, now he has lots and lots of attack power, guys. So if we want to mark off that he has the death necklace equipped, we'll see that he's up to, well, I guess, does he not have the fighter's ring for some reason? Not entirely sure if he ever acquired and or equipped that, but if he doesn't, I guess he would be up to 149 with the necklace equipped. And let's see, I guess it would still be pretty tough to win this fight, I think, with only the 6 heal mores, right? But
I mean, yeah, because doubles are practically impossible.
Right, that's the problem. Yeah, you're all the way back down to 97 or 98 hit points. You got no defense to speak of. You can get hit for 49.
And now getting through the Stone Man is not trivial either.
Yeah, well, hopefully he does have some, extra MP for those sleep spells, like we mentioned. I guess he could cast that twice before it's an issue. Now he's getting put to sleep by a green dragon and gets run blocked. So no, he's good with the green dragon now. So yeah, first things first, see if he gets through the mini boss cleanly. But it's kind of fun that he is going to, I think, make an attempt here with the death necklace equipped on very low resources, and we'll see if he fails that, if he just kind of throws up his hands and quits this race, or if he wants to continue on while being cursed. If he gets cursed, he'll be kicked out of Tanticle Castle with 1 HP. Fortunately, when you have that happen, when you have Erdrick's armor equipped, you heal walk yourself anyways, so you can walk yourself over to a town, stay at the inn, and you'll have full resources again. So it's not that big a deal, but it is a little bit amusing. And he does successfully put the Stone Man to sleep, and it's staying asleep, fortunately for him. So that is good to see. He's going to give it the old college try, I believe, and he has a regular heal to spare here if he wants to use that during the DL1 fight, for example, to try and get full. And yeah, so the look from the he doesn't have the fighter's ring equipped. I just saw he has 149 for attack power. So here we go. He is a fool. And he 2-shots it without using the herbs to heal up. He was probably thinking maybe he would get one more turn. But, okay, he's going to start with a 24, which is a really good start, actually.
Yeah, that's a max.
And so, if he gets a few of those, it would be helpful. 12 is like the minimum. So, 36 now. We'll look to see if he's keeping count. He might throw up a hurt more at the end if things aren't going well. Wow, there's a 21 for 57, I believe. Just only 3 heal mores, though. Makes it 21! So is that 78 by my fuzzy math? Something up there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hurt more strat at the end, but if he gets the swag more, it'll be a perfect.
Another, it's a 22. He's up to 100 damage. This is crazy. If he gets 3 more 20s, he could get it here. There's another 21! So you're saying there's a chance. No hurt more. He's got 121 damage done. He actually can do it. With good rolls. Unfortunately, that's a poor roll. 135. Let's swing big. He has a chance at a miracle double here as well. Let's see. Yo, he gets the double attack at the end, and he's going to get him.
Oh,
Huge
wow, what a
victory
fight.
for Simbu
Holy cow.
on 6 heal mores.
That was amazing.
Congratulations. What a victory. And he is going to return to the castle. 2 HP to spare at the end there. My goodness. He got the fire breath, but it was a low ball. On 46 damage, he survived the breath attack. Gets the final swing. Puts him down. Let's get the official time here. What a fun way to end it. All right, 156.06. Get your GGs out on a great way to stick it out, especially after having that reset issue. Nice job for Simbu on this race. Let's see if he wants to pop in for a minute or two before we throw it to the next race. I believe maybe on Randomania Prime, that's like a 80% sure guess on my part. I think at 11 o'clock on that channel, we're going to have the J. Cooper race going live, so we're probably almost ready for that. Let's see what happens here. He didn't know anybody was still watching. Well, that's yeah, we had fun watching him finish that out. I think he is going to pop in here for a minute. So that was really fun. It seemed like I thought he was going to end up casting outside and coming back in when he was down to 53 magic points or something, and then he just puts on the death necklace and immediately it's like, oh boy, here we go. What a way to finish that out. That was fun.
I guess in hindsight, though, I mean, the town wasn't that far away. If you can just heal walk, like 5 or 6 HP, you're safe to get there. Might as well just go for it for the fans.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And I mean, if you are going to finish out the run while being cursed, there is an issue where if you're going to redive through those top zones, running into red dragons and armored knights with only 97 HP, that could actually be an issue. But yeah, it's possible that he may have just forfeited the race if that had failed there. But anyways, it was fun to see him try. It seemed like it wasn't going to work out, but wow, it was the miracle double at the end. That was crazy. I mean, think about what has to happen to get a double attack when you have low defense power. And what did he have at the end there? Something like 98 hit points. He had to basically min roll physical attack and min roll on him twice in a row to get that double attack in. That was crazy. All right, what's going on? We have Simbu joining us to wrap it up here. That was a fun way to finish that race. That was awesome. Congrats on the victory. And you may have to push to talk or unmute or something like that. Actually, I think I see a mute symbol in Discord. There you go.
I had push to talk turned off, so it wouldn't let me unmute.
Sounds good. So tell us about that race. We saw that there was one issue where you had like a double negative on the king, and you might have lost some time there. But other than
Yeah,
that,
I got the princess, and I was pressing the B button so that I wouldn't talk to the king again, but I didn't know that it automatically asked you to save the seed, so I reset, and I don't know exactly how much time I lost, probably 10 to 15 minutes, but it really affected the rest of the seed because I was a little bit tilted after that happened, and I forgot where everything was, and it was not a good time.
oh yeah, I can understand that completely. I know when I run these seeds, I don't write anything down anymore. I just kind of try to keep track of things that I need to come back to and stuff like that. So if I do something, I feel like I'm done with a location. Like, you had to, I guess, run around and reacquire the silver shield, and then you had to go re-rescue the princess and different things. Like for me, I would definitely forget where those things are. If I feel like mentally I'm like done with a place, like if I get the Staff of Rain location and get the staff, I don't need to know where that is anymore, So like if somehow I had to go back there again, I would be lost.
Yeah, it was just, especially my exploration, I forgot that I had gone up straight north a couple times and had wiped to a green dragon up there twice in a row, so I never got to actually see that big chunk of land up there. So, I don't know, just a couple little things that really went downhill, and then instead of grinding, I thought the race was over, so I just kept on suiciding into the castle, hoping for something to happen. The red dragons were not nice my first 2 or 3 times down there, but we didn't have very much agility that seed, so I wasn't really expecting to go anywhere.
Yeah, it is tough when you're diving in there on low agility, but you took a chance on it. I guess a couple of the things that slowed you down earlier was you had some issues with the Stone Man, unfortunately, in Hawksness, which totally understandable. They did have the Dragon Lord 2 breath, and it seemed like it just took you a few tries to get that armor out of there. And then it also took a little while before you ended up finding the grave, which seemed to be both of your tickets to get keys for the seed, so that you could run around, doing other things. Archfield was able to find that a bit earlier, and then got keys a bit earlier. But those are the two things that looked like they just kind of, in some ways, were a little bit unlucky for you.
Okay, yeah. I'm fairly new to the randomizer, so I haven't, I probably should have tried the Stone Man a few more times, because it was pretty much just get enough sleep rolls to be able to kill him, and I eventually decided to do that as a catch-up play, but earlier I was thinking, oh, I'll just go and look for the other 2 slots, when it's like, there's a very good chance the armor's there, and that would help all of your extra exploration so much more, so I probably should have done that earlier.
Yeah, especially since Hawksness was just so close to start, it might have been worth to shrine it a couple more times. And the other thing you could have tried, which, either way is okay, but on an earlier level, Archfield was successful with casting Hurtmore against the Stone Man, which it's about 50-50 to land on a Stone Man. So, if you're not doing a lot of damage, it seems like it's taking too many turns where he could wake up and, breathe on you one time and it's over. He used that tactic. It just happened to work out. He landed 2 Hurtmores out of like 4 tries or something, and it stayed asleep. And so he got it on the first try using Hurtmore strats. So that's something to keep in mind. You could always try that on the Stone Man if the melee attacks just aren't doing it. But either way, you should have been able to win with the melee attacks too. It just you weren't getting the luck. And actually, one thing you both did was when you got the gold grind going, you ended up settling for the broadsword, which was in Cantland. Did you have any thoughts of going over to Breckenary for the flame sword instead?
I was thinking about, I was pretty sure I also saw a magic armor up there, but we had Hurtmore at that point, I think, and it was also a pretty decent walk, so didn't think it was worth going and risking losing the money trying to make that trip several times in a row.
Yep, fair enough. That's true. Yeah. Well, you got any more questions, Fury? So we're probably gonna wrap it up.
No, not really. Again, it was unfortunate with the double negative on the king, but in the end, I think when you watch it back, you'll see that it was pretty. I won't call Archfield lucky, but he got at least a bit of fortune on how the Stoneman treated him, and subsequently finding the cave and getting his keys just a little bit earlier through his routing got him about a 2,000 to 3,000 XP lead prior to that issue. So it's just kind of getting a little bit luckier on those kills, and you'll be right there with him.
Yeah, it's definitely something I need to work on. I'm still not exactly sure which fights I should be taking for EXP on the overworld and which ones I shouldn't be worrying about. It's a lot of stuff to pick up, but I'm sure I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, that's a thing that actually you can get better and better at that just through sheer experience. There's a lot of like small factors that come into play. Like you guys had sleep early, for example. So that comes into play, and then if you have healing spells or you don't have healing spells, or you know what your stats are like in various ways, some of your other stats come into play. If you're, it's just kind of almost every situation is different in every seed, so it's there's kind of a steep learning curve with that, but that's kind of the fun of the replay value. You get better and better at that over time, and you know, you both look to me like you knew what you were doing and you were running through the seed very nicely. So I'm sure you'll have some good races upcoming in the tournament. So you're going to be 0-1, which means that you're actually going to be facing off against another 0-1 opponent. So you'll be in the second round. You'll have a good chance to bounce back and get a victory in the tournament. And Archfield, you're 1-0. So that brings you one step closer to a potential playoff if things go your way. I think, yeah, so good luck, guys, in your upcoming matches. I guess we're going to wrap it up. And there is a race either that just started or it's starting up soon or something of that nature on Randomania, I believe. I don't know if we're going to be hosting that directly or rating them, or if everybody just wants to jump over there. But let me see, who was that again? I think it was Jay Coper versus Chitin619. So one more race for everybody tonight. If you haven't gotten enough Dragon Warrior Randomizer, there's another race going on. So for us here, that was a great race for us to watch and be involved in. Good luck in your future races, and thanks everybody for watching tonight. Have a good rest of your night. See you next time.
Yep, thanks everybody.
And just in case we're still live, huge shout out to Math Girl for the restream and Smashy for the tracking. Thanks, guys.